We're going back to horizontal today. Let me just pull up the comments here. Bear with me for 1 second. All right. Today I started to print the next color on this print. And this might be a short stream because I'm not sure if this print's finished yet or if it needs another color. So I just mixed up this. I was trying to make these trees. Here's the print here. It's hard to see. I have direct sunlight coming through my window. This is what's wrong with doing this at 11 o'clock. I have some sunlight coming through. So it's hard to see. So I'll keep it over here in the shadow. I don't know if this print, I'm kind of liking the print where it is right now. I'm not sure if I even need another color. I mixed up some yellows. You can see here, this is the yellow that I mixed, and this was over the last green that I printed with. And it turned out terrible. As you can see here, it's way too yellow. It's not good at all. So this print, I could save this print. If I let this dry, I can always print another color over top of it. So I can save this print, but that color is no good. So I mixed up some new greens, and I want it to be more subtle. So just a little bit different than what I have here, just a little bit brighter. So we're gonna try. I'm gonna pull out a print that I don't really care for. One of these that are a little too light on the printing. Here we go. This one's gonna work. All these need a little. This one here. So I'm gonna use this print as an example for the next impression. So let's roll out this color and see what happens. So it's always hard for me to tell when a print is a reductive print, when it's finished or not. More so with oil painting, but this one I have to make a decision. So maybe you guys can help me make the decision today. So I pull down some ink. I wish I could block this sunlight here. Let me see if I can block some of this sunlight. I'll block a little bit. Does that do anything? Just a little bit. Not really. Save this. So let's go right to the block and see how this looks. Yeah, the color that I mixed before was just way too green, or way too yellow. You have to be careful with yellow, because too much of it makes it just look toxic. Not natural. let's see what this does. The question is the print finished here, or will this impression finish the print? That's what I'm questioning today. Put it through the press here. Let's see what happens. So this is way better than the last color. So this just heightens it slightly, very slightly. So I think, let's move this block out of the way. I'm sorry for this direct sunlight. So we have, this is the print before. It's pretty dark. And then this is it today that we just did. It's very subtle, but it does highlight it a little bit. It's hard to tell in this light. I guess you can see, I guess it shows up better on the screen than it does on my phone. Well, it's much better than this, the previous one. Look at this one. Oh my gosh. This one is just, wow. So I'm gonna have to let this dry, and I'll have to try to save this print. That's no good. So it's not much different, but it does add a little bit of variety. Let's do another one. I'm going to add a little bit more ink to the block this time. To the press. I think I have 20 sheets in this edition, so I'm willing to lose a few for color exploration, but I don't want to lose too many. Yeah, it's very subtle. I'm not sure if it even makes a difference. I guess it does a little bit. Adds a little bit of variety. It's about the same color value as before. I'm going to move this again. It's hard to tell. It's very subtle. I think I'll continue with this color because it doesn't change it too much. It just changes it slightly. And then I'm going to call this print finished. I think we're almost done with this one. At some point you have to stop working on these. So today, if you have any opinions, just let me know. But I think I'm going to keep going and just keep printing this color out. It adds a little bit of variety to the print, a little bit of color variety. And then we'll be finishing this print today. So let's just keep going for now. Today's going to be a quiet stream because I'm doing it an hour earlier than usual. Yeah, I'm calling it on this one. This is going to be the last impression for this one. I feel like if I continue and I really try to put individual colors, more colors into the trees, that I could just potentially ruin the print. I don't want to ruin the print with these last impressions. So sometimes I ruin the print towards the end. And I like where it's at right now. I'm happy with where it's at right now. So I'm just going to live with it as it is. This has been a fun project. We experimented with a couple different things in this print. One, if you remember way back, some people may remember, the way I prepared the block was a new, unique way, where I made the transfer with graphite paper, and then I sprayed the block with a polyurethane clear coat. And that allowed me to work on the block in a reductive manner without losing the drawing underneath. So that was new. And that was successful. And I will be doing that again it'll be becoming my normal way of working with linoleum, I think. Yeah, it just adds a little bit of yellow, a little bit of more brighter green. Kind of just accents the foreground a little bit more. And I think that's just enough to finish off this print. So I'm finally convinced that this is the last impression on the print. So it's not quite fall, but you could tell there's falls in the air. It's early, maybe late September, mid-September in upstate New York. Also, what else I did on this print, which was an experiment, was I was using these lines, carving some lines, being just a little bit more some linear, but from a distance they read well as a distance, kind of blend in. So that was new. I've never really done that on a print before. And also I've used the Dremel tool, which is a rotary tool, especially in these last couple. You could see this is all just little stippling and little dots and little shapes that I use a rotary tool. That would have taken me forever to carve by hand with a knife or a chisel. So the rotary tool was nice. I could really just stipple with it. So it's a power tool, battery operated, but I'm experimenting with multiple things on this block. So I'm happy with where it is, and I believe it's a successful print. So I'm convincing myself that this print is finished. Absolutely no difference whatsoever from printing from a regular piece of linoleum or the polyurethane coat. There was actually no difference whatsoever. I did prep the surface by sanding it first with some light sandpaper, maybe like a 200 grit sandpaper, a wet sand. So I spray it with some water and do like a 200 grit. You form like a slurry on the surface, and that breaks off that coating that comes on a linoleum, that fabricated linoleum surface. So I sanded it first and let that dry, and then I sprayed it with about 4 very thin coats of polyurethane until I could visually see that it covered the whole surface. And you don't want to go too thick because it'll drip and form little pools of polyurethane. So I did very thin applications. I think I did about 4 coats. And I also tested it by seeing if the graphite would smudge. Just enough to cover, but there was absolutely no nice smooth surface. The ink comes right off it. It's easier to clean, that's for sure. So after you're done printing, I was wiping off my block with some oil, with some avocado oil, and the ink was just coming right off. I could see the drawing underneath it beautifully. So no difference. You just want to be careful that, when you're carving, you have a layer of polyurethane on so you don't want to be breathing in the dust. You don't want to be breathing in any dust, but I was using a rotary tool, so I was doing it in a well-ventilated area, and I was wearing a dust mask. And then I was vacuuming up the dust as I was working. Good morning from Peru. I'm a little early today. And it's very hard to see because it's a very subtle impression. But this is going to be the last impression on this print. Let me get a piece of cardboard here. Let me move this block. This paper is transparent, so it's hard to see. And I have this really bright sun coming through today. It's very nice out today, a very sunny fall day. So let's see if we can put this cardstock here to compare these two. I'm going to turn them sideways. Let's see here. I don't want to get this in my ink. So that's the difference that we're doing today. It's very subtle. It's just heightening the color a little bit more chroma, a little bit more yellow. So the one on top was last impression, and the one on the bottom is the newest impression. I think it lightens it just enough to bring the foreground forward a little. I don't know, I kind of still like the one that's on the top. It's hard to say. But when this ink dries, I think it'll dry a little bit darker. I'm not sure. No, it's just enough, I think. Not 100% convinced, I guess. I showed this earlier, but I really messed up the color on the first one. The first color mixture. I'll show you this one. Wow. That's crazy. Crazy yellow. That was my first color mixture. I did it off camera, and I tested before the stream. And that's not the right color there. So I had to remix, add some more green and some more blue into these pigments. So this print for now is not going to be in the edition, but I'm going to work on it and see if I can get it looking like the other ones. So what I can do is I can run this through the press after I clean off my block. I can actually do it right now. Let's try this. I'm going to get a piece of scrap paper, a couple sheets of scrap paper. Let's see if we can fix this print right away. So what I'm going to do, because this is the same height, because both sides will be the same height, so I could put this through the press. So this is just a scrap piece of paper. I'm going to put that down, put this on here. So that's a nice flat surface, and then another clean sheet of paper on top. I'm going to run this through the press and blot off the ink. Onto this paper. Just bear with me for a second. So all that ink just came off the surface. It's on this paper. I'm going to do it again. I have a lot of scrap sheets here. Put it through the press again. Just blotting off the ink. Put that through again. going through twice this time. There's less ink that time. That almost removed all of the ink. I think it did. That's almost the same as it was before, or this other one here. Just compare them. Yeah, it's pretty good. So I think I just saved this print. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just lightly apply ink onto this block again. I'm going to take that same print that I just blotted the ink off, and I'm just going to run it again. Trying not to get my fingers on the inked surface. So this should cover up whatever ink was left on the block. Yeah, so we saved this print. Not bad. So it was my last two streams I did it in the vertical format. Yeah, you can always blot off ink. Sometimes after you do an impression, you want to blot it off right away because it's too much ink, and you get a nice little, like, more transparency that way. You just want to be careful that you don't slide the paper around, or you blot it and then the paper shifts and then you blot it again, and now you're pushing the ink, the registration kind of. So you just have to be careful when you do that. You want to use, I used the copy paper there, but what's better to blot ink is newsprint, just like a cheap newsprint. It's like really absorbent, and it'll really pull the ink off of a block or off of a print. So you just want to be careful when you do it. But yeah, that's a technique that a lot of printmakers use. I've done prints where I've blotted every impression just to get that really thin, transparent look. As I was saying, the last two, okay, we have a first time watcher. Hello. What's this question here? It's asking about the Baron. What makes the Baron feel good? is it the more firm it feels at the bottom, the better. Over time, does it get more soft? So it has less pressure. So I have a couple bearings that are different. There's different knots patterns in here depending on how many different strands that they use. I'm not exactly sure what this one is. It's a 16 strand, I believe. And it's for fine, and this one's for more fine work. And then I have one that's a little bit more coarse. And they both have a different feel. So if you're doing like mokahanga or traditional Japanese woodblock printmaking, you want to use the finer ones for the delicate areas. So for the lines and for the key blocks. But when you're printing a big, large area that's flat, you want to use a coarse, has more power in it. And then these covers are made of bamboo as well, and these wear out over time. So you get to spin your disc in here every few times you make an impression. I'm just using it lightly to press down the paper onto the surface here. But when you're doing mokahanga work, there's different bearings for different jobs. And I also have a ball bearing where here. And this is, there's little ball bearings in here. I'm not in love with this design of this one, but it works really well for large areas that you can really put a lot of pressure in. You could hear the raised little balls here, and that'll really put a lot of pressure. But if you were to use something like this on a very delicate printed area with a lot of little thin lines, it would just smash the paper and smash the wood. So you want to use something nice and fine that you're lightly rubbing with something that's smoother. And over time, the coils inside, to the second part of your questions, they will wear out slowly, but you can always take the coil out and rewrap it inside, and then because it's sewn together. So you could unsew it and unravel it, and then you re-sew it in there together. So now that where the little knuckles were rubbing were worn out, it'll be now in like a new part of the rope. If that makes any sense. Okay, so I lost track of what I was doing. Can't tell if I inked this block yet, so let's just ink it again. But welcome if it's your first time. This is reductive linoleum. And I'm having a hard time today because I'm not sure if this impression was necessary or not. So I already printed. Did I print this one? No. So yeah, it's just lightly to put the paper flat on the surface. Yeah, so it's like a coarse, it's like sandpaper. If you think of sandpaper, you have a coarse grit, like a 60 grit. There'll be big chunks of 60 grit sandpaper. And then if you go to a 200 grit or a 300 grit, there's smaller particles of sand. So it's the same idea. It's just like, so a coil that has a larger pattern, there'll be less spots, but they'll also be kind of larger. And then one that's more, so you could say like this would be, you know, if you uncoiled it, it would kind of resemble this underneath. I actually have, do I have one that's opened? Let me see if I have a bearing that's opened. I'm not sure if I have one that's opened. No, I do not. They're all wrapped. Usually I have one that's at least open because I usually have to wrap one at some point. Yeah, I don't at the moment. I actually had some examples of the strands. Of course, I'm not going to be able to find them right now, but I think you get the idea. But you go on Dave Bull's website, Mocha and he's got pictures of Barons on his website. Let me see if I can find this. Now I'm curious. So I'm in my studio here. It's a mess. Got projects. I got projects everywhere. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to find that at this time. Oh well. So this is the work for today. Just a little repetitious. Not a dramatic change in the print, so it's not too exciting. I've done so many impressions with this paper that the corner of the sheets they're getting worn out. It's getting harder to put it into the Kento. This is a thin paper, thin Kozo paper from Awagami. I think it's their Kozo Select is what they call it. It's a great paper. I will definitely be using it again. Thank you for your comment. Appreciate that. My wife always says when I think something's terrible or it looks terrible, that it's usually finished. So I'm almost at that point. I'm not quite happy with the results. So must be getting close to being finished. I don't know if all artists are like this, but I'm very critical. And I always think I can do better. So a lot of the times I get frustrated with myself, the way things turn out. But you have to just accept that this process, you know, this reductive printmaking process, it just creates its own image over time. I didn't know what this was going to look at like. I had an idea in my mind of what I wanted it to look like, and it's close. And I did learn a lot during this process with this print. So this, if anything, I've learned a lot of different new techniques that I want to continue with. So that is a success in itself. But once the ink dries, it'll settle in, and I think it'll be a nice little print. You know, it's kind of backlit, but that's the idea. It was kind of lit from a sunset, which is the sun is like maybe setting over here off in the distance. So everything's kind of in shadow. And I think that's how it looks. I'm reading that way. You get a little of this like sunlight that's coming through the clouds here. It's kind of raking down and hitting this little section of land there. Greens are a difficult color for me to manage. I think a lot of people, painters, and greens are a very difficult color to get right. I believe, I'm almost positive, that there's more varieties of green than any other color. So on the color spectrum, there's way more varieties of different greens. But if you look into a wooded forest, or you look into a mountain filled with trees, you can see all these very subtle changes in greens and shadows and lights, or if you look through leaves on a sunlit day and they're just glowing, it's really hard to capture those moments because there's just so many changes, so many subtle variations. Hey Pam. Sorry it was early today, but at least I'm back on the horizontal format for you. You know, I did the vertical format. I was saying before, I was doing the vertical format streams the last two videos because I guess YouTube has this new like AI tool that it highlights your live stream. It automatically will make highlights for you and create a short. And I was looking through yesterday, and they did do that with the my last two streams. But all they did was just take out like a 55-second or a 1-minute section of my video where I was just talking about, I think the one video I was talking about my interview at the Met, and it just took like a 1-minute chunk of time. Like it didn't edit. I thought I was going to edit like throughout the whole video, like multiple sections and do like a compilation. But it just took like a segment, one segment. And I could do that myself. Like and then that's it. And then, you know, it's not public. I have the option of turning it public. I'm losing my train of thought today. I have the option of turning it on public, but that's not a short that I would want to share with anybody. So I'm having a hard time focusing today. My mind just seems distracted today. I don't think I slept enough last night. That's probably the problem. So it's not worth doing. I'd rather do the horizontal format. Well, Pam, I can get you caught up. We're doing a very subtle color variety on top of the last one. It's very subtle, but I believe it's the last impression on this print. I think I'm going to call it quits at this point. So I can show you, Pam. The first color mix that I had was way too yellow and it looked terrible. So I had to mix up some new colors. But this is the difference today. It's very hard to tell. It almost looks exactly the same. But the one on top is a little bit brighter, has a little bit more yellow, and it's just a very subtle color change. And then this print's finished. I don't see myself making this any better. I don't know. Maybe I'll try another impression. But I'm kind of happy with where it is. I'm running out of energy on this one, I think is the biggest problem. But I learned a lot from this print. So I did a lot of interesting new techniques. So this was a successful print. Yeah, I like the sky in this one. I like the distance that was created. I like the big form mountain in the front, the cliff. There's a little bit of volume there in the trees I kind of like. So all in all, I'm happy with this print. And at least I get to share the last impression with you on the live stream. And I know a lot of people have been following along ever since the beginning of this print. I think I started on the second impression for this print, and I did them all on a live stream, except for a couple in the middle there. I did on my own. A couple colors, maybe 3 impressions I did on my own. But you can go back and see this print and the development of it. I don't know what the numbers are, but they I'm on number 20. Say number 29 or 30. I'm not sure. Live stream number 29 or number 30 today, I think. That's another reason why I do these live streams, just to document the process. And then when customers buy these prints, I can tell them, hey, check out my live stream number 20 to number 30, and you can see how this print was made. you know, color by color. Maybe they can appreciate it a little more. Appreciate the effort that goes into this. All right, we're celebrating our 30th live stream today. That's pretty cool. So this, people that know this area, or people that rock climb or visit this area, this is like an iconic view of the Gunks. If you Google search Gunks, New York, this image will probably pop up, a viewpoint from here. And the sun goes down, sets over that far distant cliff. And it's a beautiful spot for sunrise and sunset, but the sunsets are really extraordinary. I showed the other day I made a little painting, a little cloudy painting of this cliff viewpoint of this cliff, but in the winter. And it's kind of a nice landscape that you could revisit this area 100 times. Am I back? Am I back? I'm back. Yes. So this is the little painting I was talking about. Sorry, I froze there for a second. But this, I'm making these frames, these white oak frames for these little painting panels. And this is the same viewpoint, but just in the winter you could see how frozen. Sorry, I froze there. I think someone was calling me and it just like froze up my, so I guess I'll have to turn that off. Thank you, Pam. My dad helped me make that molding for those frames. Maybe I'll do I might make a YouTube video. Got this really cool miter saw too. Maybe make a YouTube video about making frames. I'll show you the saw in a second. It's really cool. Yeah, the painting was just like a quick little study. But I liked it, so I put it in a frame. It's a nice size. I needed to fill up this the gallery walls, so I had to use some of these smaller paintings, frame them up to just fill up the walls at this exhibition I'm having. This one will be going. I bought a frame for this one. I'm matting these. I can show you. No, I usually, if I'm putting them in a frame, I just mat them. Oh, I'll show you here. I usually do something like this, where I leave a lot of the margin showing. And then I show the, I sign it, date it, and I put the edition number on there. So something similar to this. And this is just a simple mat, 2-inch mat with a simple molding. But I've been buying these white oak frame. Here, I'll show you this one. This one's going in the exhibition. It's a little mocha honga print that I sent out for a holiday card. It's a white oak as well. I don't like the whiteness of this mat. It's too bright for me, but it's too late to change it right now. So that's going in the exhibition as well. How do I maintain clean paper during every layer? I'm printing 2, and a few of my paper takes some ink from the other prints. So your other prints you're getting ink from your other prints. Well, I could show you here. I use a paper. I have a drying rack here, and I keep all of my paper in order. I always put them in order. It's 20 rows, and then I have my other project here, drying. So that keeps the prints separate. You can also hang, if you don't have a drying rack, you can hang them on a line, a clothesline, or you could put nails in a board and then clip them with a clothespin, or like little metal clips. But that damages the edges of the paper sometimes. But when it comes to keeping the margin clean, you just have to make sure you clear enough space for your paper, and you have to wipe with a rag every time if you're getting overprinting on the registration. So I'm getting overprinting on my Kento. See, I just hit the margin over here. And so you have to look around the perimeter and clean up any areas. So I can see I have ink here. So you gotta wipe that up. And then I have ink on my registration here. But I'll show you when I put this, I designed this block to be a little larger than my paper size. So as you can see here, this paper never hits this edge, or on this edge, or down here. So I have like a gutter. So that was designed, I planned that ahead of time. But occasionally, and it takes practice. I mean, my first prints, I had a lot of smudges on the margins. And I still get smudges on the margins. It's really easy to do. It happens. It's not the end of the world. Actually, I have a print here coming up. It has a smudge on the margin. There it is. This one's going to Pam. She claimed this one already. So when I make mistakes, I'll send them to you for free. But you have to claim it first. Be the first one to claim it on the live stream. I'll send it to you. So Pam already claimed that one. That was about 10 impressions ago. Yeah, I like the white oak frames. I used to just get black frames for everything, but for some reason I like the natural wood more now. It's my preference. Show you this miter saw. This thing is so cool. This is my new favorite tool. So it's a saw. It's on a guide, so it stays vertical, and then you can rotate the saw blade. It's like a hacksaw, and you can rotate it for 90 degrees, 15 degrees, 30, 45. And there's little clamps to clamp the wood, some stops. And this is my new little toy for cutting frames. Yes, I've been making these little frames here. It's another little study I did. This little painting of a snowy little cliff with the carriage road. Throw them in these little frames, and they're nice little pieces, I think. This one I sanded up really nice last night. You could see some figure. And it does a pretty good job with the corners. I had to put a little wood filler in there, but that's all right. I love this little painting. All right, so we inked up that block, I remember. Paper's going down. Today's live stream has been very chaotic. I didn't get enough sleep last night. This is another smudge. It's on the back of the paper this time. Does anyone remember how I got that smudge on the back of the paper? It was back when I was doing this color, this blue-green color here. That's the color that's there. So it was a while ago. I want to add a little bit of ink to this block and do this one again. Just at the top here. It's a little thin. I'm just going to run this one again. Being careful not to touch the wet ink. the registration has maintained very well through this whole project. You can tell by the edges. So if you go furthest from the, so the Kento mark's here, so you go furthest away, so this side of the paper, and you can look how this edge, everything's lined up perfectly straight. So the registration has been really performing well for this print. How did I get that opaque layer while printing? Which opaque layer? The current one? So you remember the first, 6 or 7 impressions of this print, I used a lot of transparent base. So a lot of the colors I'm not sure what kind of inks you're using, but these are all very opaque inks. I add transparency to them, especially in the first couple impressions. I added some transparency in these lighter tones back here so that they were influencing each other. So this blue is over this yellow and peach tone. The purple is laid over top of that. And I was adding transparency to all these. But no, these are very opaque inks. And what I'm doing now with this yellow and this green, these are very opaque. You can see this was just the roller from last impression, and you could see how much that covers the paper. There's barely any paper showing through here. So I'm controlling the opacity and the transparency throughout the print. So for these last impressions here, no transparency, just the pure ink from the tubes mixed together. It'd be cool to make a print with a beam of light shining through like that. That would be pretty cool. See if I can do that. Fleeting. Today's a beautiful day in New York City. I think the high was around 67 today, sunny. It's windy out there, but it's a beautiful fall day. And then the stream here. Take you to the window and show you the view out the window. You can see the light coming through the trees here. You can see how dirty my windows are. But it's a beautiful day today. Yeah, I'm lucky to have windows out my I'm lucky to have trees outside my windows. Not many people get trees like this in New York City. I'm going to end the video here. I really appreciate everyone for being here. And I guess this print is now complete. So I'll be starting or continuing with this print tomorrow. I carved this little area up here. I also have this background, so I'll probably be doing this printing tomorrow, or maybe the background. I'm not sure, one of the two. Maybe we could do both, but we're going to continue working on this next. So I'm excited to keep going on this print, keeping these first base layers nice and clean and crisp. We'll see how this print develops next. So keep following me along on these projects, and we'll see how they go. So thank you again. See you tomorrow.